This is a QR code. If you scan it, you'll be sent to a link. But this is a QR code with about 7% of a sharp bead, and yet it works. This is a QR code with like 15% of it completely missing, and yet it still works. But how? How can something function with a part of it just missing? Like, how do these nerdy things even lead to a link? Wait, who cares about how? Why do these even exist? What even is a QR code? This is everything you need to know about the QR code.
Part 1. The history.
The QR code is an incredible piece of evolved technology used by almost every modern company and business, but it stands for something else also very common, the barcode. In the 1940s, a lot of cashiers were developing carpal tunnel syndrome as they had to type everything about the product being bought by hand. And so, an engineering student named Bernard Silver sought to find a solution with his friend Norman Joseph Woodland. After playing with the image of Morse code, that one nerdy language from the 1800s, Woodland came up with the barcode, which was originally circular. Later on, in 1973, the technological company IBM took the design by the engineering students and made it rectangular with vertical lines as it printed better. In this new barcode, called the UPC or Universal Product Code barcode, there were many black and white bars. For accurate reading, there are two vertical lines in the beginning, middle, and end. In the case that the barcode is being scanned upside down, a few bars are flipped from the left side and right side of the code. The rest of the bars represent 12 numbers. The numbers on the left side generally represent the manufacturer, and the right ones represent the product. The last number is called the check digit, and is used to see if the barcode has been read correctly and fix the code in the case the barcode has been damaged. However, the check digit can only fix a barcode if one number is missing, because if there are two or more, they're kinda cooked. If you're wondering how exactly a barcode fixes itself, it reversely follows the process of adding the numbers in the odd numbered places, multiplying the sum by 3, adding the numbers in the even numbered places to it, dividing it by 10, and checking the remainder for being either 0 or 10 minus. If you would like a more in-depth explanation of this process, even though I'm still yet to yap about the QR code, stay here. If you're a normal person, skip ahead to the number on screen right now. Essentially, a barcode takes all of the numbers in the odd numbered places in the barcode and adds them up. So in this case, it would take 7, 1, 3, 8, 5, 0, and add them up, getting the sum of 24. Then it would multiply the sum by 3, so 24 times 3, which is 72. Next, it adds up all of the even numbers and adds the sum of that to our previous answer of 72. So here, we would add 2, 3, 6, 6, and a 9 together, obtaining the sum of 26. Adding 26 to 72, we get 98. Subsequently, we now take 98 and divide it by 10, giving us 9 and 8 remainder. If there are no remainder, then the check digit is 0. If there is a remainder, like in our case, then the check digit is 10 minus our remainder. In our situation, that would be 2, so our check digit is 2. However, if we did not reach 2 after all that calculating, then the barcode has been damaged. To find out what number is wrong, scanners follow the mentioned procedure, but in reverse. And that's cool and all, but the barcode has a problem with it. There's only so much information it can hold. With their traditional 12 numbers, they usually only hold the manufacturer, product, and a backup for one number in case of damage. And yes, while we could increase the size of a barcode to include more than just 12 numbers, it's impractical and inefficient. Before you know it, your barcode will wrap around the entire product if you just increase the size in one dimension. You see, why increase the barcode horizontally when we can also do it vertically as well? Why use something one-dimensional when we can use something two-dimensional instead? Enter data matrices. In 1994, a Japanese engineer at Denso Wave named Masahiro Hara was getting annoyed for having to scan multiple barcodes due to the automobile-related complications in his job. And so, he set out to find a solution. Taking inspiration from the Chinese board game Go, he created the concept of the QR code. It is important to note that the QR code wasn't the first ever 2D barcode or data matrix. In fact, in 1989, the International Data Matrix Incorporation created the perhaps first ever data matrix, called Data Matrix.
Very creative!
After Data Matrix, there was MaxiCode from UPS in 1992, VeriCode from NASA in 1994, and then the QR code. Of course, there were some others like Aztec Code and Shock Code, but by today's standards, these are all either insufficient, impractical, or patented. You see, when a person invents something new, they have the right to patent it, or copyright their invention, meaning that only the inventor can choose who gets to use or sell the invention. It's the same as many songs nowadays. If you use a copyrighted song in a public setting, you'd be forced to pay up or face legal issues. But the thing that the QR code had that the majority of other data matrices didn't was that it was unpatented. Denso Wave decided not to patent it, even though they could have easily earned millions of dollars, and instead made it free for anybody to use. That's actually part of the reason why the QR code is so commercially successful today. But, of course, with the invention of the smartphone, QR codes could literally be scanned by your phone through various online scanners. And after 2017, QR codes could literally be scanned by your camera due to Apple and Android making it a built-in feature, further increasing the commonness of QR codes. By 2019, QR codes were a common commodity used by businesses to advertise, modern restaurants as menus, and random kids to rickroll people. But then, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, with the leading theory for the reception of the virus being contact with something infected. Thousands of companies and restaurants use QR codes to avoid contact with physical menus and items. Consequently, QR codes skyrocketed into global use, even though they were already famous. By 2022, just in the United States alone, 89 million device users had scanned a QR code, a number expected to reach almost 100 million by 2025. As QR codes continue to evolve and become more and more efficient and convenient, their usage will only increase. But how the flip do they even work?
Part 2, the process.
As the QR code was made as a two-dimensional way of holding more information than a barcode, it's actually very intricate with a lot of parts to it. But before we yap about that, it is important to note that QR codes have different versions. There is a version 1 QR code, which was the very first type of QR code, up to a version 40. A version 1 QR code contains the least amount of data of any version, as it was the first, as each QR code afterwards contains more and more data. This is because they contain more and more modules than the previous version, a module being a single black or white unit in a QR code. The reason why there are only 40 versions is to maintain scannability of all QR codes in all devices, as a version 41 QR code would require more resolution and camera precision. Also, version 40 meets most expectations nowadays, and if it doesn't, companies just use data matrices other than the QR code. A version 1 QR code has 21 by 21 modules, allowing it to store at maximum about 20 bytes. A version 40 has 177 by 177 modules, allowing it to store up to 2,953 bytes, or about 3 kilobytes. If you're wondering what on earth is a byte, we'll talk about that later. For now, let's talk about the various parts of a QR code. The first part of the QR code is the bit around it, called the quiet zone. This area is usually 4 modules thick and has to be the same color, which is usually black or white. The quiet zone allows the scanner to know what is the QR code it is trying to scan. If there's too much going on, a scanner may have a hard time telling what the QR code is. That's actually why QR codes are black and white and not colorful, to have high contrast and tell what is what. The second part of a QR code is the most prominent bit, the finder pattern. These are the three huge boxes in the code's corners. They're important to tell what position the QR code is in, upside down, right side up, sideways, etc. These have a strip of white modules around them to separate them from the rest of the code. The third part of a QR code is the alignment pattern, which rescales a QR code based on the distance or angle it is being scanned from using the modules around it. Put simply, it digitally aligns the QR code to the scanner. After that is the fourth part, the timing strips. These are alternating black and white strips between and around the finder pattern that tell the scanner what version the QR code is in. This allows your device to know how much data to expect and be more ready for the results of the code. Next to the timing strips are the format strips, the last major part of a QR code, that tell the reader how to scan that specific QR code. A QR code can be masked 8 different ways by inverting the colors of the modules, meaning that for every QR code you see, there are 8 variants of it. Whichever of those variants can be read best by your scanner is the one used by your device. But to better explain how QR codes actually store the data of the website they bring you to, let's talk about binary code. Binary code is the most stable and efficient computer language we currently use. As many of you may know, it's essentially just ones and zeros. QR codes run with binary code. The white represents a 0 and the black a 1. But there's obviously more to binary code than ones and zeros. Binary code is what runs everything data related in a computer, but it does this using bits and bytes. Bits are the smallest unit of binary code, or the computer language, just like how letters are the smallest part of English. A single bit is either a 1 or a 0. 8 bits equal 1 byte, the second smallest unit of binary. This means that 8 binary numbers, which are ones and zeros, equal 1 byte. From there, 1024 bytes equal a kilobyte, not 1000. That's a common misconception. 1024 kilobytes equal a megabyte, 1024 megabytes equal a gigabyte, and so on. These binary units make everything computer related, from the pixels of the video you're watching right now to the letters you type. But that letter part is very important to a QR code, since obviously QR codes lead to a link, which contains letters. In the computer world, any number, letter, or whatever is considered a character. Each character is usually assigned 8 binary numbers that represent it. As each binary number is 1 bit, and 8 binary numbers usually equal 1 character, then 1 character usually equals 1 byte, as 8 bits equal 1 byte. Each time you type a character in, say, Google Docs, you're adding 1 byte of information. So that's a byte, that's a byte, that's another byte. Oh wow, that's a lot of bytes. Okay, maybe slow down. Yo, chill. You're gonna break my computer. The QR code has 4 formats of characters that it uses. Numeric, which is just numbers. Alphanumeric, which is letters, numbers, and some common special characters. Japanese kanji, which is a Japanese letter and is there because the QR code was invented in Japan. And binary. These formats are important because the very first modules in the bottom right corner of a QR code specify what format the QR code uses, what type of data is in the link it brings you to. Then, the next 8 modules specify how many characters are in the link. Next, in a 2-module wide pattern going up and down is the link, if it was translated into the language of modules. That's not a language. I don't know why I'm saying language. After that, there are 4 white modules, separating the link to the error correction, which is the shield of the QR code, in case it gets damaged. Just like how a barcode has a digit for error correcting purposes, QR codes have a section devoted to that as well. Depending on how much of the QR code is for error correction, even if 7% to 30% of a QR code is missing, a device can still scan it. That's how these QR codes worked in the intro of this very video. If you're wondering how a QR code is error corrected, it's error corrected in a very complicated way. So why don't we allow ChatGPT to explain it? I mean, it's supposed to be an extremely smart AI. Never mind. Never mind. I'll just do it myself. Essentially, they use Reed-Solomon codes, which basically use the characteristics of the code left over to calculate the code missing, using insanely complex polynomials and nerdy stuff. While the QR code is an insanely elaborate piece of code, it still has a quick response. That's what QR stands for in QR code. Quick response. The QR code is the quick response code. So there you go. That is the various parts of the QR code. But how will the so-called quick response code be like in the future? Due to the commonness of the QR code and how easy it is to simply scan a code and be brought to a website, scammers and hackers are making QR codes leading to viruses or trying to steal your personal information. To combat this, DenzoWave, the company that created the QR code, is planning to add authentication functions and show who issued the code. However, as with anything online nowadays, you need to keep your wits with you and not just use any QR code you see. So don't scan this QR code. I warned you. Besides safety and security, Denzo is planning to make QR codes handle more than just text and be able to deal with more complicated messages, as it could help in medical emergencies if the internet is down. They also want to add color to the code to make it seem less and potentially add more data to it. It is possible that in the future, instead of using barcodes, we use the QR code instead, but we will have to see. And the QR code will probably be quicker at responding as well. So, having evolved from the insufficiency of barcodes, QR codes are now common commodities used by businesses, companies, and regular people alike all over the world. QR codes are an incredibly intricate invention having a lot of parts to them, but will only get more and more efficient and are set to revolutionize our world around us. While they may have security concerns, so does everything around us. That's the bleak and unfortunate truth about. And if we keep our wits when we explore these insane white and black checkerboards, not you chess, get out of here, we will have access to portable dimensions into the digital world with only a device for the cost.